Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I am a speech language pathologist turned homeschool mom to two boys, a first grader and a pre-Ker. And in today's video, I am going to do a little mini review of my thoughts of the space unit from Gather Round. Let's get going. So for science, to start off our first grade year, my boys picked space. I've always been intrigued by Gather Round, so I was just like, let's do it. Let's do the space unit and see what they have to offer. I know that this curriculum, I knew going into it that it was going to cover more than just space in the student notebooks. I will say I didn't know how much it was gonna go into different topics. So I learned along the way. But let's talk about the teacher guide first. This teacher guide is packed full of knowledge. There are 20 units in this, and they range from starting out learning about the solar system, what our solar system is, to the sun and all the different planets, the asteroid belts, learning about our moon. Then it goes into dwarf planets, which I learned so much about, and so did my boys. And then it goes into stars and constellations and gravity and light. So this is chocked full of knowledge. However, because of the knowledge, it was more like a brain dump of a read aloud rather than building a story, which my boys are more used to. So A+ on the chalking this full of knowledge. Absolutely. Now the student notebooks that I got for my boys, my pre-Ker had the pre-reader, and then my first grader had the early reader. Now, let me show you the size difference. The pre-reader only had 2 pages per lesson. The early reader had anywhere from, I think, 4 to 6 pages per lesson. So a very big jump going from pre-reader to early reader. So just keep that in mind. Now the pre-reader always encompassed 2 pages. It was a coloring page of some sort, and then a like cutting, pasting, learning about the space concepts. I remember there was putting together the solar system, doing a water cycle for Venus, learning about the dwarf planets, putting them in order, stuff like that. So very practical for a pre-Ker, working on coloring, nice pincher grip, learning on those cutting skills, but also having to answer some basic questions about what we did in the read aloud. I will say the pre-reader had more animation in their coloring pages. For example, the planets had like silly faces on them, which I'm not a fan of. When we're learning, we just need to, why can't we just learn the facts and not have all the illustration gobbledygook? That's just me as a very practical, very practical person, practical teacher. I would rather them see an actual picture of a Venus rather than one that has a little animation to it. Why does Venus have to have a little face? That I don't understand. And most of the planets did have little faces, little animation to them in the pre-reader, but they did not have that in the early reader. Now let's talk about the early reader. Now the early reader, much more meatier than the pre-reader. The early reader typically started out with a review page for each lesson as the first page. So let me show you an example of that. So when learning about the sun, for example, he had to identify where the sun is. He had to answer a multiple choice question about the sun and then do some filling in the blanks related to what he learned in the read aloud portion from the teacher manual. But then going from there, each lesson varied greatly in what the scope and sequence was. So let me tell you what kind of this curriculum scope and sequence is. Scope and sequence, it covers language arts, it covers science, obviously, social studies and history, art, and the Bible. So pretty all-encompassing curriculum. Like, I knew I was getting my kids into, but I didn't fully understand how much it was going to have geography and Bible and the language arts incorporated into this curriculum. I thought it was going to be more focused on the science. Now, I will say every lesson pretty much ended with a coloring page. Now, the coloring page in the early reader did not have all the animation that the pre-reader had. It was just a circle and color earth, for example. So let me show you the difference. So whereas the pre-reader had all that extra animation that I personally think is completely unnecessary, the early reader just had like a circle area for them to create the planet that they were coloring for their little art lesson. So those are my just general thoughts about the space unit from Gather Round. Now, my boys, I asked them about this curriculum and they said that it taught them so much and that they loved learning about all the planets. My first grader said his favorite planet to learn about from this curriculum was Neptune because it is the windiest planet in our solar system. My first grader also said he loved learning about the sun and stars because there was a lot of good information in that specifically that stars, the lesson. It was amazing. I really enjoyed that. Now, my thoughts on using this curriculum, this Gather Round type of curriculum again in the future, I will most likely not. I will never say never unless it's like egregious in some way. I'll never say never, but likely not use this curriculum in the future. This curriculum I found very much from a teacher. I was dumping information at them and it was a lot. It took us time to read the information because I wasn't gonna read the entire 2-3 pages of information at them. That was just way too much. So we'd read some information, do one of the pages, then we do a little more of the teacher read aloud section, and then we'd maybe do another page, and then maybe we'd have to do the rest of the read aloud. It was just lots of managing my boys so that they focused on the information but not get overwhelmed and just like not about it, because it took a chunk of time to read all the information for each lesson. Now for us, this curriculum was lacking video recommendations. We loved in our previous science curriculum having literary options and video options and lab options. It was all encompassing and it was amazing. And we are going to be going back to that curriculum. So look out for that video. But just talking about this curriculum, we needed videos to supplement. We needed books to supplement, and I did that. So it took me extra time to research and find those things. We heavily rely on the SciShow Kids channel on YouTube for supplementing science, I think, and the Free School YouTube channel. For every lesson, I had 1 or 2 videos picked out from YouTube, and the boys loved that. Having that video can engage them, and it's fun, and it's just brings enjoyment to our fun Fridays, because that's when we do science. We do it on our fun Fridays. But I think that is my overall thoughts on this curriculum. If you have questions about this curriculum, leave it in the comments below. I would be happy to answer them for you to the best of my ability. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are. Bye.